dreams are dreams, or are they? Well, that's the issue we're addressing in this review of the Woody Allen comedy Café Society. And I just got back from the Century Theater in Orange and saw Café Society. And there's also another funny story with one of the audience conversation I had with one of the audience members after the movie ended. But we'll get to that at the end of this review. So Café Society starts in the late 1930s. It opens in Hollywood. It opens with Steve Carell's character, Phil, and he's this big time Hollywood agent who's like very, very much out of touch with his family. I mean, like his sister calls, his sister Rose, played brilliantly by Jeannie Berlin, calls him and say, "It's your sister Rose." And who? "Rose, your sister. Bobby's coming." And who is Bobby? "My son, your nephew." It's like, my goodness, this guy is just so out of touch with his family on the other side of the country. I mean, they're calling from New York. He's in LA, in Hollywood. So, and of course Bobby shows up. That's again played beautifully by Jesse Eisenberg. And then, after 3 weeks wait, after getting the runaround from Phil, he finally meets Phil. And then, you don't know any people, blah, 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 blah. That's basically what Phil tells him. And Bobby is like, "Yeah, I don't know anyone." And in walks Phil's secretary, Vonnie, played by Kristen Stewart. Okay, we'll get to the acting later. But, the story is that Bobby falls for Vonnie. Vonnie at the same time has an affair with a very, very married Phil. So you have, she, when approached by Bobby, Vonnie says, "Oh, I have a boyfriend," but she doesn't really state the clear identity of who he is. But he then Phil decides to go back and forth. He says, "Oh, I'm dumping my wife," and then a few scenes later he changes. Says, "Oh, I'm not dumping my wife, and I can't see you anymore," he tells Vonnie. And so then Vonnie and Bobby start a relationship, and then in the meantime Phil still has feelings for Vonnie, and through the hard way, to cut a long story short, through the hard way, Bobby does learn the truth about Vonnie, and then goes back to New York brokenhearted, and he ends up working for his brother Ben, who's a gangster, and Ben is played again greatly by Corey Stoll, which Corey Stoll, if you remember, he was the bad guy in Ant-Man. So Corey Stoll is a great actor. And then we have Ben is a gangster, and no, this is not like, oh, just a gangster and you never see anything. No, with Ben's story, there's been shot, punched, and thrown into ditches and buried in cement. And I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to give too much spoilers of what happened with Ben's character, but for Ben's character, you got to see the movie. And then Bobby helped runs Ben's nightclub, and in there he meets Veronica, a divorced Veronica, a recently divorcee named Veronica, played beautifully by Blake Lively, Mrs. Ryan Reynolds herself. Now, as for and so then one night in walks Vonnie, and Phil shows back up, and they kind of Bobby is kind of annoyed with Vonnie, how she drops names and kind of like became a Hollywood wife. She pretty much became anything that she would criticize, or everything that she would criticize or make fun of. And so even Vonnie tells him, like, you're not the same either. And so that's like, oh yeah, it funny, but is it just me? But why isn't it the only woman on screen who could put Jesse Eisenberg in check is Kristen Stewart? I don't know. I guess they have that Hepburn Tracy dynamic, but but there's just a question. So she visits Bonnie visits New York, and he's already married to Blake Lively's character, and they have a baby and that type of stuff, and they have a baby and that type of stuff, and they you know they talk about each how they never stop thinking about each other, and Kristen Stewart, K Stew's character goes, Vonnie, she goes, well, dreams are dreams, which kind of makes you kind of wonder, when dreams are dreams, it's like, well, dreams are dreams, but like, do you never stop thinking about your first crush? I think there's a lot of people who today still thinks about their first crush. So I think this movie that note does resonate, hopefully does resonate to a lot of people, you know. Um, there's this one girl I used to work with at my first job fresh out of high school, and it's been over 11 years, and I've never stopped thinking about her. Like, what if I had the guts to ask her out? But that's another story. But I relate to this movie. Comes to the acting, is like, yes, Jesse Eisenberg, again, he was great in his role. I mean, he said he did a good job. When it comes to acting, Woody Allen used to act his own things, and Jesse did a good job in picking up where Woody Allen left off. Steve Carell as Phil, well, okay, yes, Steve Carell has that typecast of being sniveling and self-serving, and no one can tell him edgewise, because he knows better. Well, yeah, he does. That's what we see in Burt Wonderstone, and in this movie, yes, that it's his strong, being that know-it-all is his strong suit. And as for Kristen Stewart, well, okay, I admit I'm a fan of K-Stew. I mean, my first formal introduction was Snow White and the Huntsman. I actually own Snow White and the Huntsman on DVD. Hell, and next I saw The Runaways. That too I own on DVDs. I own like 6 of her non-Twilight movies on DVD. That being like Camp X-Ray. Clouds of Sils Maria, Still Alice, which I also enjoyed in theaters, and American Ultra, which again, there's Jesse Eisenberg, and they have good chemistry, and that chemistry is again shown in this movie. But as for K-Stew, it's a different K-Stew. It's not K-Stew being her usual tomboy, spunky Brewster characters. Like, she's very dainty, she's very feminine, she's very mannerly, very mannerly. If anyone consider, I mean, yes, sure, she has her mannerism where she pauses, but I think if her pauses is not she's stupid, her pauses is, well, okay, I'm gonna try not to drop an F-bomb in this. Like, okay, like where The Runaways, where she F-bombs left and right. But I think with K-Stew is that Woody Allen realized the major fuck up he had done with Scarlett Johansson. Remember, Woody directed ScarJo in Match Point, Scoop, and Vicky Cristina Barcelona. And Match Point and Vicky Cristina. Okay, Match Point is that Woody took an already feminine, ultra feminine ScarJo and made her into this femme fatale, sex pot seductress in Match Point. And then he made a turnaround and tried to make her this bookworm in Scoop, which, okay, critics didn't. Match Point was well praised, but Scoop got mixed reviews because, yeah, Scarlett Johansson as a reporter, ooh. And then he decided to turn her back into like a seductress type in Vicky Cristina Barcelona. I'm like, okay, Woody, you clearly don't know what the fuck to do about ScarJo. So I think Woody Allen, this is my theory, I don't know the story, but Woody Allen saw Kristen Stewart, learned of her usual tomboy, spunky Brewster typecasting, and decided, well, okay, I'm going to try something here. Maybe if I were to make a spunky Brewster this spunky Brewster type actress and turn her feminine, maybe this movie will stand a chance and maybe it'll work. Well, you know what? The movies did stand a chance. It's getting good reviews left and right. It has 64 out of 100 on Metacritic. So yes. So yes, Willie. Yes, Woody. Thank you for growing a brain. And only my only gripe was is another person who was great in her role too was Parker Posey. I mean, it's not very often you see Parker Posey in a mainstream movie. I mean, she's an indie princess just like Casey herself. You know, she's the original one of the original indie princesses. You know, she's best known as of the Dazed and Confused fame. But Parker Posey was great in her role. It's just like maybe if they tried to maybe if Woody Allen had wrote a few more minutes into his movie to give Parker Posey some screen time, but she played her character beautifully. I would say who was also beautiful was the sis Sarah Lennox as the sister, and I forgot this actor's name, but the actor who played the husband, Leonard, he was great in his role too. I mean, it's a superb cast, superb acting, and yeah, I really would like to see Case to get an Oscar nod, or at least get a Golden Globe nomination for this thing. You know, reverse the negative of Twilight, but you know, but to give this movie a rating, I say I had a gay old time. You know, I would like to say classic, but it's a gay old time because, well, like I said, there was a couple characters who were underused. So maybe even Blake Lively's characters, Veronica. Even Blake Lively was great in her role too. You know, and that's my review. And you have a good one.